This one I wrote a while back, and I got to tell you just a little bit of the story behind it. I was playing blues when I first started doing solo work. I was playing at this gig, and I happened to mention Son House, a blues musician. I said he was born in 1904 or something, and this little man, old man in the audience. What's the tuning on the dobro, Dave? It's open D tuning. And this little man in the audience looked up at me and he went, "True, he was born in 1902," in a stage whisper, of course everybody heard him. And afterwards I walked up to him and I said, "Yeah, and he said, "Yeah, I really liked your music and everything." I said, I said, "Well, I'm glad to meet you." And he said, "My name's Bernie." I said, "Well, I'm Toby." And he says, "Yeah, my name's Bernie Klatsko." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to put this together. I'm thinking, there's a Bernie Klatsko I knew of. I never met him, but he was a record collector. And I said, you're not Bernie Klatsko, the record collector?" And he said, "Yeah." Now, folks, you have to understand how important this guy was. I mean, in 1961 or 62, now this is a Jewish man from New York. He used to drive down into the deep South. Think about it and think about the time period. And he met up with his friend Gail Wardlow. And Gail had they used his car, the station wagon, and they would drive all around Mississippi, and they would be knocking on these doors, and the people would open up the doors, and of course Gail would do the talking because Bernie had New York accent, and they would just ask him if they had any old 78s, and they would pay like 25 cents and maybe 75 cents for them if they were in good condition. And they would look for old blues tunes and jazz songs and gospel songs. And they would bring these records back up to New York where they're playing for all their friends, a little tiny knit group. And then they actually, they created a record label with the help of a guy named Nick Pearls, and they created Yazoo Records. But Bernie had created his own label, and that's where I knew of him. And Bernie afterwards brought me over to his apartment in Port Washington, where I saw racks and shelves and filled the walls with rare 78 records. Now, Bernie told me something that happened to him when he was down in Mississippi, and he wasn't driving with Gail. He was driving by himself, guy from New York, a Jewish man from New York driving in the deep South. And when I heard what happened to him, I had to write this song. So the song is called Bernie's Blues. Heading out of New York town under a gray and dirty sky, Bernie's Ford was moving slow as he crossed the Jersey line. He had guts and he had a goal, but deep down in the Delta he'd find what truly moved his soul. Yeah, now Bernie was a collector of those old 78s. Southern blues, jazz, and gospel would fill his trophy case, and in the heat of the day, walking from shack to shack, looking for all those old records as the sweat was pouring off his back. Bernie's world would change. I said in ways he'd never understand. Yeah, he was about to see what it was like when you rip the pride from a man. He found a Son House record in Tunica and a Willie Brown in Marigold. Melodies long forgotten, their stories yet untold. Each song was a treasure, an uncovered work of art. Yeah, but outside of Clarksdale, he saw something that broke his heart. 5 miles out of town, his car began to stall. Bernie pulls over to the side. There was nobody to call. Sheriff pulled up behind Bernie. Bernie said, I ran out of gas. Yeah, Bernie, Sheriff heard Bernie, grinned and said, I'm gonna get you fast. Bernie's world was about to change. I said in ways he'd never understand. Yeah, he was about to see what it was like when you rip the pride from a man. Then came a beat-up car driven by an old black man. Officer flagged him down, holding up his big white hand. He said, this man needs help, boy. And the sheriff held up a hose. He said, you're gonna siphon off your gas and get this good man back out on the road. Yeah, time stood still in that sun-baked South. That old black man bent down and sucked the gas up into his mouth, and when he was done, that old man just drove away. Yeah, the sheriff just looked up to Bernie and he said, yeah, it's gonna be a hot one today. Bernie's world had changed. I said in ways he'd never understand. He saw what it was like when you rip the pride from a man. When you rip the pride from a man.